The Memphis Grizzlies had practice on yesterday, and Zach Edey was there. The Memphis Grizzlies prized rookie was in attendance, and I got an update on his status, how much time it'll be before he gets back. We'll talk about that and much more coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Tennessee, also known as the best basketball player in the Memphis media, but that's neither here nor there. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. And remember that today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Remember to subscribe to the Locked On Grizzlies team newsletter. Remember that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies team's new newsletter. We got a lot to talk about in today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies. If you're tuning in on YouTube, you see the whole rundown. If you're not on YouTube, we're going to talk Zach Edey in the first segment. We're going to talk about Santi Aldama and his potential bid for a major award in the second segment. And then, as we mentioned in yesterday's show, we got to talk about Jimmy Butler a little bit. The rumors have been running rampant with Jimmy Butler and trade talk. So we'll get into some of that and how it could pertain to the Grizzlies in any type of way as we get into our last segment. But we got to start today's show with some news. And the fresh news coming out of practice on yesterday is the fact that Grizzlies big man, Zach Edey, is getting closer to a return. So talked to Taylor Jenkins on yesterday just about where Zach Edey is in his return to play. I guess you call it his return to play status. And just a refresher from the ankle injury, we saw, I think he was supposed to be back potentially last week for somewhere around either the Celtics or the Wizards game. Kind of got delayed. The Grizzlies had sent them to the Memphis Hustle, where he got a practice on last Wednesday, and they weren't really encouraged after the practice. But now here we are about a week later, and things are trending up for Zach Edey. So here's kind of what Taylor Jenkins said in short when he was talking about Zach Edey. He said, I think he's going to get some more contact in the next couple of days, maybe a play group on Friday, and then we'll evaluate towards the end of the week where he is. So basically what we saw in Wednesday's practice was the fact that Zach Edey is starting to get a higher volume of work than in the past. So now he's going to start to ramp up. And then, as Taylor Jenkins said, towards the end of the week, they'll have a better idea of where he is. So that means probably not going to be back for Friday, against the Nets, and probably not going to be back for Sunday against the Lakers. But I would say that that game on the 19th against the Golden State Warriors is very realistic at this point for Zach Edey. But, I don't want to set that as the day that he'll be back. But I will say this. Things are trending that way, and we'll continue to, get updates from Taylor Jenkins on how he's progressing and what that looks like, because we know, again, as we said in yesterday's show, the improvement, that the Grizzlies have in their big Santi Aldama, as we'll talk about in the next segment, Jaren Jackson Jr. and how great he's been. Brandon Clark, he's stepping into this starting role. Jay Huff stepping up and being instant offense off the bench with high-level three-point shooting and shot blocking. There is no hurry to get Zach Edey back, and he's your prize rookie, right? This is number 9 overall pick. This is a 7'4" guy that's one of the best young rebounders in the NBA, period, especially on the offensive end. Offensive rebounding percentage was up there amongst the best in the league before he got hurt. So he's only played 14 games at this point. I think the Grizzlies have played 25 games. So he's missed 11 games. And we're actually closing into on a month of time that Zach Edey's been out. He's been out since November the 17th. But that's kind of where he is right now in his return to play status. Anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot them, at me as well as we continue to learn more about where he'll be. The Grizzlies will also practice today, so we'll probably see him, up close and have some more updates on Zach Edey in the next episode of Locked on Grizzlies. I also want to throw this out there too. We've been talking about Desmond Bane a lot, and I know everyone's kind of tried to figure out is something wrong with him, the injury stuff and all that. But if you notice, when he missed that game on Sunday, it's because of left toe soreness for Desmond Bane. And I'd seen, some people mention the fact, like, hey, it's his toe. You might want to look into that a little bit more. And if you remember, the toe injury was the one that bothered Dez. I want to say it was a couple seasons ago now. Yeah, a couple seasons ago, to the point where he had to change shoes. He's been wearing LeBron 20s ever since he suffered that toe injury that kept him out. I want to say it was like a couple months of basketball action that Desmond Bane missed when he suffered that toe injury. But he missed. He was on the injury report ahead of the game on Saturday against the Boston Celtics. Left toe soreness. Played through it. Didn't have the greatest game throughout the entire game, but came up big in the fourth quarter, knocked down a couple big shots, closed the game out. Did not play on Sunday against the Washington Wizards, out, left toe soreness. But would like to add that all's in the clear with Desmond Bane, talking to him about the toe. He sounds, like, number one, there is nothing there, anymore. He say he feels good. He's pretty much ready to go. And then two, this toe injury, the left toe soreness, there was no this has nothing to do with the toe injury that he had a couple seasons ago. So wanted to clear the air on that as well. This toe injury is completely unrelated, according to Desmond Bane himself. So he's fine. Desmond Bane's fine. And again, this is one of the players we've been talking about a lot because how his role has changed. He's not averaging as many points. Like, I know some of us was talking about the idea that the Grizzlies could have three guys average 20-plus points per game. It's probably not going to happen. But you'll have Ja and Jaren, surpass that number. But Dez is kind of settled into that third guy role. And, over the course of the season, I think his numbers will improve from an efficiency standpoint, and you'll start to get the best version of him. Speaking of the best version of someone, the Grizzlies have started to get the best version of Santi Aldama this season. Santi Aldama's been really good for the Memphis Grizzlies. So we're going to talk about Santi Aldama in our next segment of Locked on Grizzlies. But before we get to Santi Aldama, today's episode of Locked on Grizzlies is brought to you by Gametime. Look, if there's a live event out there that you want to go to, whether it's a concert, it's a show, it's a theater, at wherever you want to go, Gametime is the place to go purchase your tickets. Look, Gametime has it. It's for all the events, and it's going to have the best options available for you. And look, check out Gametime Picks as well, because Gametime Picks is going to filter out the fluff, and it's going to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't got to worry about wasting your time searching through thousands of tickets trying to find, this one's a better cost, or this one's a better cost. No, just go through Gametime's Picks. It's going to do the work for you. Very simple, very easy, very effective. Look, and Gametime, not only do you get Gametime Picks when you work with Gametime, you get some other exclusive opportunities as well. What about all-in pricing? With all-in pricing, you can toggle through that feature, shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Then you get great seat views. I'm talking about a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. You get the lowest price guarantee, which is the best part to me, because if it's not the lowest price guarantee, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are that it'll be the lowest price guarantee for you. And then, of course, you get some Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. You say, well, how do I go take advantage of this? It's simple. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Capital L, capital O, and on, and then all caps NBA. So Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today, everybody. Because what time is it? It's game time on Locked On Grizzlies. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. And now we got to talk more about a developing act here with the Grizzlies, and that's Santi Aldama and his improvement. I mean, we've talked a lot about Santi over the course of this show because, I mean, I think if you go back to Santi's rookie year, and that was my first year, I think, on the beat. Yeah, my first year was Santi's rookie year. Zaire Williams and Santi were rookies. And I remember thinking at the time, like, people weren't really talking about Santi when I got here. You know, he spending a lot of his time, you know, in the G League with the Memphis Hustle, and I was barely seeing him. So I didn't even really get to know Santi much his rookie season simply because we barely saw him. But I remember watching him play, and I was like, he got game. Santi got game. And it was quick. It did not take us long to realize that the guy had game. You know, Jaren Jackson Jr. started the season hurt. Santi steps into the starting lineup. The playmaking starts to show. The three-point shooting flashes and things like that. But everything up to this season has been just that for Santi. It's been a flash. We have not seen him completely put it together. You saw games like, I think it was last year against the Boston Celtics, actually. He had a really good game. You saw games like there was one against the Milwaukee Bucks and things like that. And then you had a bunch of other games where Santi would just whoosh, like just vanish into thin air. And it's like, will the real Santi please stand up? But what we saw this offseason was Santi Aldama, the only, this just sounds so weird to say, but it's the truth. Because if you followed FIBA basketball over the years, you know Spain has always put out some real good talent that has come to the NBA. Santi Aldama is the only Spanish player in the NBA right now representing Spain. But with that being said, we saw him over at FIBA, and he was the guy for Spain. It was, hey, we running through Santi Aldama, and we're going to get as far as he takes us. And he talked a lot about how the confidence developed from that, right? What that opportunity did for him, what it meant for him, all these types of factors and things. And it wasn't just talk. That's what I'm learning at this point. It wasn't just talk, because what you have now is a guy who is firmly in the race for Sixth Man of the Year. He's in the race. Now, let's address the most obvious part of this. And the most obvious part of this is everybody knows, and we can all, well, not we all, but for the most part, many of us will agree that Peyton Pritchard, right now, the Boston Celtics, is the heavy favorite to win this award. In fact, our friends over at FanDuel have Peyton Pritchard as minus 270 as the favorite for Sixth Man of the Year. Minus 270. Santi Aldama right now is plus 4,000 as a Sixth Man of the Year favorite. So clearly, you know, a real long shot to win the award overall. But here's the list, though, because there are only 6 guys in front of him, I think. 5. It's Peyton Pritchard, minus 270, but there's a big drop-off after that. It's DeAndre Hunter, Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets, Buddy Hield, Golden State Warriors, Tari Easton of the Houston Rockets. So you got a couple Rockets on there, but you got Peyton Pritchard, and pretty much it's open game after that. And Santi Aldama has firmly put himself in the race. We talked about how big of a year this is for Santi. We talked about that a lot, you know, right? The Grizzlies did not extend him at the beginning of the season. So he's playing for some money here. Like he's a guy who's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of this season. And in that case, the Grizzlies can potentially match any other deal that is offered to Santi Aldama. But at the same time, you know, I mean, the way he's playing, he's going to play himself probably into a starting spot somewhere if he continues to play at this level. 13.2 points a game for Santi, 7.5 rebounds, 3.2 assists per game on top of that. How about 37.5% on 3-point field goals? This was the question. And you know, I'm not gonna toot my own horn too much. I'm not gonna do that. But I've seen Santi shoot the basketball, and I still do. Like 37.5 right now is solid, but I'm gonna stick to it. You know what I said? I said this should be a year where Santi's 3-point shooting, the percentage numbers improve because he was a much better 3-point shooter than what the percentages showed. Whether it was his second season shooting 35.3%, which is decent, but this guy doesn't have a decent looking shot. Like he has a really good looking shot. And then the next season, right? His third season, he was at 34.9%. So basically around 35% is pretty much where he was hovering over those 2 seasons. And now he's at 37.5%, taking less 3-pointers than last season. I think last season took about 5 per game. But I think the Grizzlies as a team, near the top of the NBA in 3-point attempts, pretty much because so many guys were hurt and they didn't have a lot of guys that could drive the basketball. But that's neither here nor there. But Santi Aldama's putting a really strong year together, 7.5 rebounds a game, easily a career high. It's funny because last season he played 26.5 minutes. This year he's playing pretty much 27 minutes, like not playing much more. But he's gone from 5.8 boards per game last season to 7.5 rebounds per game. And what I think is a big reason for that, he's stronger. You can see it. And we'll talk to him after practice on yesterday as well. He said, yeah, I put on some weight. And now he's in this place where he's trying to make sure, he's trying to say, hey, this is the happy medium for me. I don't want to add any more weight, but I don't want to lose where I'm at. And if you've watched Santi play on both ends, you have seen how he's benefited from adding this weight. Starting with the offensive end, how about the 2-point field goal percentage? That is a clear indicator of a guy who has gotten stronger. Santi is a walking mismatch because of his ability to play make, because of his ability to play the 3, to play the 4, and even play the 5 in stretches. Like he is a walking mismatch for the most part. But you watched him last season, you see so many times he drive the basketball on a smaller guy, and he wasn't finishing. And it's like, how are you pretty much 7 feet and you can't score on guards one-on-one? That ain't the case this season. 62.9% on 2-point field goals. Easily a career high. Santi Aldama has never been over 60% on 2-point field goals in his career. Now he's up to 62.9%. Then there's also the defensive end, right? If you watch him over the last couple games, especially in that game against the Wizards, there were a couple times where Santi absorbed body blows. Guys would give him a little, into his chest, and he would absorb it and would swat the basketball. We didn't see much of that from Santi early in his career. Those were the times where, he'd get knocked out of the way, 2 points, then run back to the other end. That's how it used to be. But now, there's still some, he still has to get stronger. Like, I'm not going to sit here and, act like, he's Joey Dorsey or something like that. But he is much stronger, and Santi deserves credit for the improvement that he's made. So I was looking at those odds and wanted to point it out because he's not that as high on the most improved award list. So if some of you may be saying, what about most improved? He's nowhere near the top 5 on that one, according to the current FanDuel odds. But for 6th man of the year, Santi Aldama is right there in the conversation, right? Again, Peyton Pritchard is the runaway favorite, at this point. But we'll see what happens because Santi Aldama is definitely making a strong case to be the first Memphis Grizzlies player to win it, I believe, since Mike Miller did. And I think that season was 2006 for when Mike Miller took home that award for the Memphis Grizzlies. Coming up here next on Locked on Grizzlies, we want to talk about Jimmy Butler. We hinted at this in yesterday's show with me and Joe Mullinax. Jimmy Butler, there's a lot of trade rumors going on with him. We'll talk about that coming up here next on Locked on Grizzlies. But before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action right now with FanDuel because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Look, this FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place on live bets as well on the NFL, all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of a game and you're watching the game, I'm big on game trends. I'll let you guys in on one of my secrets that I like to do. You get a pregame favorite, and then you let a game unfold a little bit, and if the underdog jumps on the favorite early in the game, me personally, I live bet the favorite, and you get them at much better odds than you did at the beginning of the game. And sometimes they come back, and then sometimes you lose. But that's how the game goes. But anyways, you can view live play-by-play stats as well wherever you place your bets. So go take advantage of all these opportunities, and remember, you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, and we got to talk Jimmy Butler. We mentioned it in yesterday's show, and this is usually a Joe Mullinax segment. Shout out to my guy Joe Mullinax. This is usually the segments that I reserve for him. He's the trade machine guy, and whatnot. But here's the thing: Jimmy Butler's name's been coming up a lot in recent trade rumors. We talked about Cam Johnson and some Nets guys, Dennis Schroeder, Dorian Finney-Smith, and those guys. But Jimmy Butler, at least from a name standpoint, is a level above any of those players. He's been to the finals. He's taken the Heat there, beating the Boston Celtics, en route to doing so. He's been to a couple of them. He went there in the bubble, lost to the Lakers. He also took on, the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. So the guy, to me, he's a proven winner. He's won pretty much throughout the entirety of his career. But the question that we're going to present in this show, and feel free to chime in as well. Again, make sure you like, rate, review, comment, subscribing to Locked On Grizzlies. But the question that we present is, does this make sense for the Memphis Grizzlies? The idea that Jimmy Butler could team up with Ja, team up with Jaren, form a little trio that can lead this team to a championship. Because that's the thing, right? If you go out and get Jimmy Butler, it's not to say, oh, okay, well, let's put ourselves in the conversation. You're already in the conversation. You get Jimmy Butler, you're saying, all right, we're going to win this thing. It's time to have a parade on Bill. But is it worth it? Does it make sense? I say no to both. It's not worth it. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me either. Jimmy Butler is a fantastic player, incredible player. Jimmy Butler has proven that he can fit in a variety of different roles on a variety of different teams. Even this season, he's averaging 19 points, pretty much 5.4 boards, 4.8 assists, so pretty much 19, 5, and 5 across the board. He's been averaging over 20 points per game the last 4 seasons. In Miami, this is a guy who's been to the All-Star game 6 times in his career, but he's 35 years old at this point. He's playing 32 minutes per game, which is the lowest in his career since his second season. He's down to 32 minutes per game. Still very effective now. He's shooting 55% from the field. That's a career high for him. He's at 36% from three-point range. That is one of the highest in his career up to this point. Still not shooting it a lot. He's got pretty much like half a make per game, but shooting it nonetheless at a very efficient clip. Still not convinced. And the number one reason, the most obvious reason, is the cost. You want Jimmy Butler, you don't have to cough up a contract that equates to $48 million. That's what Jimmy Butler is making this season. $48 million for the Miami Heat. And as Joe said in our last episode, you're talking about coughing up 48 M's. It ain't gonna just you can't just throw your little backup rotation players and say, okay, let's go do it. Nah, because that's not gonna be enough. $48 million, you're gonna have to give up Desmond Bane. And I'm here to say that's not an option. No. I know there are some people out there who, are not as bullish on Desmond Bane as they once was because of how this season has started for him or whatever, but I'm not doing that. No, Jimmy Butler, great player. I've been a big proponent of how Ja Morant and Desmond Bane's games complement each other. One being just fantastic, one of the best shooters in the world. One being fantastic in that he is one of the best drivers to the rim in the world. So that's kind of where I stand on the whole Jimmy Butler sweepstakes for the Grizzlies. $48 million this year. He also has a player option after the season that'll put his contract at over $52 million. Then he'll be a free agent. But he's 35 years old, going on 36. So the age doesn't align, what the Grizzlies are trying to do, and the financial part of it. Adding that type of contract, and again, I keep saying it, with the way Jaren Jackson Jr. is playing right now, he's all NBA, and if he's all NBA, that's 300 plus million that the Grizzlies are likely to cough up if Jaren Jackson Jr. is all NBA. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. Make sure you continue to tune in to Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you continue to check out the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. We got a lot to talk about here in the next few days coming up, as the Grizzlies will be practicing later today. So we'll have some updates from practice, as well as getting into some of our game coverage. We talked to a couple players already about this idea that the Grizzlies are 0-2 against the Brooklyn Nets, but they get to play them on Friday. So we're going to get into some of that on the next episode of Locked On Grizzlies as well. But fun time to be a Grizzlies fan, and a fun time for me to be covering the Grizzlies. Make sure you continue to follow all my coverage at the Commercial Appeal. You can follow me on X at Damichael C. Just posted a story about John Duncan. We might talk about that a little bit more on tomorrow. Ja Morant says he's done dunking. I kind of provided a little more context into what he really means by that. Talk to some doctors, talk to some teammates. And because when he threw down the dunk against the Boston Celtics, everyone was like, Ja, you're a liar. But not necessarily, but, go check out the story. And also, we'll probably talk about it some on tomorrow's show as well. But thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. Remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Grizzlies.